Happy Friday!
Happy Friday, summer. It feels like we're back on track.
Back on track. Why weren't we on track before?
It's been a crazy couple weeks.
Oh, wait, I know why. Because last date night video we made was on a Monday.
Yeah, we
for
made
a
it
Friday.
on Monday for a Friday, which seemed like holy
so
cow.
weird.
It was weird, but we are back normal on Thursday, making it for Friday.
Yeah.
It's great. We just endured heavy rain,
Crazy,
big storms,
crazy thunderstorms.
and God was
We're
gracious.
lucky the lights stayed on.
Yeah, well, God was gracious, and we filmed a whole bunch of stuff down here, even in the midst of the storm.
We did.
So
I'm glad I wasn't recording during some of those cracks.
there's
They were intense.
good analogy, object lesson on God's word making it through the storm. Sounds like a reflection.
Thank you. I'll consider that.
Yes, you should definitely do that.
All right, where are we at?
We're going to 1 Timothy
5?
chapter 5.
Yeah, not James.
No, no. We're in like 17 through 25. You know, we're accomplishing great chunks of stuff.
Holy cannoli.
Yeah,
We might be in 2 Timothy soon.
or we might be. Or we might have to do, a book like Micah
By
or
fall.
Malachi.
No. See, I can't do 1 Timothy and then not 2 Timothy.
I'm all about teasing. So it's great if you could just, make somebody wait for a little bit. Like, hey, let's do 1 Timothy and then go do Joel. Let's do Joel for a couple books. We definitely have to do Hosea sometime because I love that book. So,
I know you do.
yep. All right, are you ready to do some reading?
I think you should read. You're on a roll today. with reading.
all of the people out there are going to be shocked when they see a Seeds where I'm actually reading.
Yeah, Andy
scripture.
can read, guys.
I know.
There's proof in a video.
So excited about Garrett joining us for Seeds that I just started reading. So.
You did. All right, so I'll let you off the hook, I guess.
Oh, that's very kind of you. All right.
Yeah, I know. How nice. Hey, God. Had to yawn first. Sorry.
It's Friday night. It's okay. It's good.
All right. 1 Timothy 5:17. Let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. For the scripture saith, Thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn, and the laborer is worthy of his reward. Against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. Them that sin rebuke before all, that others also may fear. I charge thee before God and the Lord Jesus Christ and the elect angels that thou observe these things without preferring one before another, doing nothing by partiality. Lay hands suddenly on no man, neither be partaker of other men's sins. Keep thyself pure. Drink no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake and thine own. Sorry. Oh my gosh. And thine often infirmities. Some men's sins are open beforehand, going before to judgment, and some men they follow after. Likewise, also the good works of some are manifest beforehand, and they that are otherwise cannot be hid. Have I read too much today? I'm like tongue-tied all over the place.
People don't remember that you are doing the word, and
Yeah.
so you're reading chapters.
I just read 3 chapters of Genesis out loud, right before this, so
Well, and
I'm like, ugh.
we're also reading out of the King James Version, and that just sounds different than the way that we talk.
I'm used to it, though.
No. I'm not saying anything bad about the King James Version. I'm just saying it's just not the way we talk.
Yeah, it's not the way we talk.
Right?
I'm used to reading.
When I get really tired, my words, believe it or not, go to smaller words, right? And I'm not making up words. I'm not wordsmithizing alizational things. Right?
What?
Are you ready? Because I really want to get lost in 24 and 25 forever, but we better get there first.
Oh, really? Because there's 10 other places I want to get lost.
Okay, let's go. Where are we going?
It's this is such a scattered thing, but not. Oh my gosh, I don't know.
See, now if you wait too long, then I'm going to interrupt you. This is what movie should we watch? Do we want popcorn or peanuts? And then you just pause and we're like, both.
All right, just start somewhere. 'Cause
All right.
There's so many things that.
So I love 17, right? let elders that rule well. And then you get stuck right there, right? Because again, let elders who rule well. Like the first thing is we tend to not think of Christians as ruling other Christians. But Paul's words here are important, right? Because of authority, right? Elders have authority within the corporate body. Right? Again, if Christianity was just you and God and me and God and we never intersected, right? And there's no authority. There's no need for that, right? It's just everybody does what's right in their own eyes. But Jesus came and said, hey, nope, we're doing this thing together. We're building a kingdom together, an outside kingdom, the kingdom of heaven. We're not building the kingdom of Summer and the kingdom of Andy. We're building the kingdom of heaven. Although the kingdom of Summer does sound like a really cool movie show, right? But we look at it, we say, we're working together. Therefore, there is this sense that elders have authority. And Paul's talked about this, right? How to set them up, what they should be, all of these kind of things. But they're going to rule, right? They have authority over the corporate. But how they do that is important. So I love how he adds in there, those that rule well.
Yeah.
It's the well part that, again, we have to dig into and say, all right, well, what does it mean to rule well? So you have sat under a lot of different leadership, right? Whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's at home, whether it's with friends, whether it's at church, you've had different leaders, right? So tell me a little bit about ruling well. What does that look like according to someone?
I mean, I can tell you. Okay, well, when you talk about other people, it's what isn't well. But for me, when I was leading, like when I was working in the secular world and I was in leadership roles, leading well for me was never being I, right? It was whenever I talked to any of my team, even if it's just one person, it's we.
Right.
Like, I address the entire team as a whole. It's not, I want this, or I need this, or you, or anything like that. It's we, right? It was about encouraging people. It was about seeing their gifts and what they were good at, and then building them up in that. Acknowledging their struggles, and then acknowledging them in a positive way, and then helping them with that. But it's really more, for me, it was like I was in sales. I loved side-by-side selling. Like, that's how I did it. Like, I could talk to you all day and coach you on how to sell something, but first of all, that's not real life. That's not a sales interaction, right? So I can teach you this whole script, and that's just stupid to me. I'm like, no, we need to do it. Like, we need to do it together, and I need to jump in and help you. So when we'd be selling, I'd be tag teaming. So when they were doing their thing, and I knew they were struggling or whatever, like, I would jump in an appropriate way and tag team with them. And customers, they can't take that when you got two coming at you. It's like, oh, all right. But you have to be smart in how you do it, because you also don't want to make the person that you're leading feel like they're wrong or they're not doing it right or all this kind of stuff. So, like, for me, it was just like, it's all about we, and like tag teaming and like doing it together.
Oh man, now we're gonna get stuck on all of that. There's so much good
I told you we're not really getting through any of this because there's so much good stuff in here.
Just how you just worded all of that. I mean, what a perfect analogy for people to be able to look at this and say, listen, in Christianity, leading well means side-by-side sales, right? It does not mean you stand on the sideline and, demand and command and send in the play and all that stuff. What it means is you're trying to live out your Christianity as well as I am, right? So, again, leadership could be just being a step ahead. You can lead, right, from any place. The problem is we tend to think that we need to be 25 steps ahead. Well, the problem with that is, in Christianity, you're only one trip up or fall from going from being 25 steps ahead to being 25 steps behind.
Yeah.
Right? So again, we want to lead well, which means we understand we're all running the race. I don't stop running the race to coach other people to run it. Right? So it must have been difficult for you, or for people in your shoes, maybe not for you, but like when you're doing that side by side sales, right? There is a sacrifice to it, right? You're not just focused on you and what you're doing, and you could have thrown them off to the side anytime and probably got the sale just for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Side by side means there's going to be trip ups and falls, and by the way, if they goof something up, you're losing a sale, right? Like it's a hard thing, right? But it's the way that we do things, right? And therefore, Paul says anybody who's doing this, you so need to do reflections on side by side sales, right? Or seeds. We need to do seeds on side by side sales, right? Because anybody who's doing it that way, it is the harder way. It is harder. Like, again, we talk about all the time.
It's harder for the leader because you have to actually do something.
Right.
You have to actually practice what you preach.
Exactly.
Right? You can't just pull them. I had so many managers when I was a sales rep who, they pull you in the office after and oh, well, here's how you. It's like, prove it. Show me. You do it.
Yeah.
Or I remember when you were a sales rep and your numbers sucked in that area. So what are you talking about? Like, come out here and do it with me and show me. So, yeah, it's a lot harder for the leader to do that because you got to gauge every single person in the scenario. You have to not overstep anybody's bounds, and then you have to be good at what you're telling them to do.
Yep. Well,
or you just look like an idiot.
Exactly. And again, we talk about, my philosophy of doing life with people, right? It is really convenient to walk side by side with somebody, and then at any moment you can walk away from them, right? Mm-hmm. It is totally different. Like, God calls us to really hold hands with people, right? Which is a really awkward thing, because we've limited that to just dating. But I love it when you see, two girls, little girls, two boys, they run off holding hands. That's what friendship's about. It's about grabbing somebody's hand. But even then, if you're just clasping like this, all it takes is one person to let go. Right? And then you can walk away. But really, if we want to do life, we do life like this because we're intertwined, right? Mm-hmm. It's a lot harder to pull away when you have somebody's hand like that, right? You can remember when you were, when we were dating people and you're walking around, you're holding like that, and pretty soon like your hand gets tired or something. You can't just let go. Right? And there's a cost of doing life together like that. And so Paul says, listen, for those who are doing that, for those who are walking out, grabbing somebody's hand and intertwining with them, there's a double honor for those people, right? Because they're doing a better thing. Anybody can tell somebody else how to go do something. Right? Mm-hmm. I love when you go to arts and crafts festivals, and we just went to a medieval festival a couple weeks ago, right? And one of the guys got lost for like 3 hours, right? And it reminded me of the story of Jesus, right? Because when we found him, right, what he said to us was, hey, I just spent the last 3 hours with the blacksmith. Yeah. And I said, well, what did he teach you? And he's like, oh, he was talking about all kinds of stuff and showing me all kinds of stuff and all things. I'm like,
that's awesome.
What's the blacksmith have to do with some kid he doesn't even know? Why would you take 3 hours of your time? Because he's so passionate about what he's doing in the blacksmithing that he's willing to walk life with anybody who walks up and grab them by the hand and say, come on, I got 3 hours, let's go.
I'm definitely the same way.
Exactly.
Like in everything that I do like that, like I get, like in sales, I did that because I was passionate about it. Like I believed in what I was doing and I believed in what I was selling and I believed in those people, and I was like, I know I've done this, I know you can do it, I know we can do it, I'm gonna teach you.
Yep.
And you have to be passionate about it. My dad taught me that. He's like, if you're not gonna give 200%, don't even show up.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
When again,
what's the point?
Most people are, how can I earn a paycheck with doing the least that I can do?
I know, trust me.
Right? You're probably working double as hard.
But I like the thing about this, not to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off. I talk all the time.
Double honor thing, like I think back to the beginning where like when I was studying this on my own, like when Paul is talking to like Timothy and people that are teaching, right? Like people that are pastoring people. He adds like in chapter 1 verse 2 he says grace mercy and peace, right? Where everywhere else he just says grace and peace.
Yeah.
But when he's talking to like a teacher, he adds mercy. And like I just, in my studying, I just learned like that's a whole nother layer of like he knows what you go through.
Yeah.
As a teacher, and that you need mercy from God, like because you're gonna screw up. And, like, there's so much weight on everything that falls out of your face and every action that you do when you're a teacher because everybody's looking at you and you're telling them to look at you. You're saying, like, look at me. I'm an example for Christ. So you need mercy there, and then you need mercy from the people below you. So it's like the double honor thing makes so much sense when you think about that, too. Because it's like, yeah, if you can do that well... Good for you. High five. Times 2.
Yeah. Well, and again, what you just said is so relevant, right? Because we understand the cost of teaching, right? So again, teaching isn't just about knowing your word. It's about then how can I articulate it to other people? But then I also have to articulate it well and right.
And apply it and do it with them.
But it also means asking hard questions, thinking of things differently, right? And then understanding that application is different from each person, right? Like we get down to the bottom part there, and in verse 23 it says, "Drink no longer water, but use a little wine." Well, that you don't get to just say that to everybody across the board.
Right.
There's people who shouldn't be having wine.
Right.
So you have to, when you're teaching, you have to look at each individual, right? I think it's super important to remember that Paul wrote to the Corinthians, to the Ephesians, to the Galatians, Thessalonians, and then he writes to Timothy. It's a person he's writing to. He's not writing to the church of Timothy. He's writing to a person, right? Philemon, Titus. He's writing to people. Specific rules, specific things for them, right? Yeah. You can't argue culture, you can't argue anything. This is written to a specific purpose for a specific purpose.
It's true. I think people forget that. Because, I mean, I didn't even think of, I mean, you know it, but you don't think of it. You don't consider it, right? It's a very good point. So you have to realize this is for Timothy.
Right. It's about him, and it's about teaching him, and it's about and somehow it gets into the Bible, but so does Matthew and Mark and Luke and John. Like those are the Gospels, right? It's important to watch Paul mentor his student. Right? How is he doing this? He's encouraging. He's walking up alongside. He's edifying him, right? But he's also challenging. Don't let them do this. Do this. Don't do. He's really looking at the whole thing and saying, here's what it needs to be all about, right? But then what he adds in here, like these people, your elders, the people that are really trying, they should get a double honor. Notice he's like those who are doing it well. Well, we down here, we tend to define well as you're not perfect, right? So again, Paul doesn't say, hey, for all those who do this thing perfectly, give them double honor. No, what he says is do it well, which is, listen, there's both sides to doing it well. Sometimes you're going to hit the mark.
Well, to me, is the person who tries the hardest.
Right.
Like, even if they're the one that screws up the most, if they're trying the hardest, like, that's because, again, it's just a God thing. It's like, God looks at the heart, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be more, pleased with that heart than the one that's just like, I'm so great.
Yep. Well, and he gives the double honor for those who are, labor in the word and the doctrine, which is really funny because Paul's talking about this at a time when the New Testament isn't written, right? So what word are you talking about? Oh, the Old Testament, that's irrelevant for most people. No.
Yeah, I talked about that last night.
Right. Those people.
They were quoting Isaiah and all
those people are looking at the word. Why? Because that's how we find out about God, right?
Right.
But I love... Also in this verse, you're right. If it had if this was like a Wednesday night, we'd be taking one night on all of this, right? One verse. I love the fact that Paul says here they receive honor. We've talked recently multiple times about the difference between respect and honor. Give respect to positions and to people in authority, but give honor when they do it well. This is what I was waiting for you.
That's it?
Yeah, no, that's it. I'm waiting for you to add on to it, right? Because like you've
Oh my
told
gosh.
stories about you, like in your workplace, you've told stories about being respected and being honored, right? You've gotten awards, you've gotten opportunities. You know what it's like to be honored, right, by people. But you also know that there have been times where some of the customers maybe or employees, they're not really honoring you, especially behind the scenes, but they do have a respect for you. Hey, she's in charge. We have to respect her, but I don't have to give her honor.
I think of that too, like with like parents. Like I've talked to people about like who have bad parents, like because there's very scary scripture about honoring your parents. And
What happens when you don't?
And it's like, well, what do you have to do? Like what's the line, and where does all that get crossed? And it's true. There's an obligation, and then there's extra, and we don't just lay it all out there for anybody, no matter who they are.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? But there is a level of respect and even a level of honor in a way for people that does not have to be false.
Yeah. Well, and again, you can.
We don't have to pump them up like a Reebok
And
if they're not a Reebok.
Exactly. But there's also times when
I just dated
we
myself.
honor people who don't. I can remember the little pump things. When you honor people,
Google it, guys.
honor people who don't necessarily deserve to be honored, right? Who we would say, like, why are you doing that? Why are you respecting? Why are you just walking away when you should fight?
Right.
Why are you taking responsibility when you shouldn't? Why are you still treating this person with kindness and all of these things?
And it looks so different to everybody.
It does, right? But you can tell when somebody's doing it right. Like, it just sticks out, and you're like, man, I'm so attracted to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm still trying to honor people who are meaningful to me, who have done things, but also to people might not, right? Like the people who can throw a party for somebody that has treated them poorly. That's an amazing thing, right?
I think I've probably done that.
I think you probably have. Right? And I think, again, there's people like, our good friend Alicia, who watches this, on a regular basis.
She gets thrown under the bus.
Yeah,
every
she's
week.
going to get thrown under the bus by Andy, because I think sometimes she doesn't think I care, right? But
She sits there laughing. She's laughing right now. Don't worry.
I think that that's one of the things I admire and respect about Alicia, right? Who was staying sharp, and the videos with us. I think Alicia has done this well recently, right? Just trying to honor people who maybe don't deserve it. Maybe people would be saying like, hey, get rid of them, right? Because they're dead weight, get rid of them, right? But still trying to honor people is an important thing. I've watched other people, do this whole thing. And it's hard because it takes a toll on you, right? It takes a toll on the person doing it, because you have to get rid of all the emotions and all the feelings, and you're simply doing it because you think it's the right thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is so much easier in life to honor people when we think they deserve it, right? It takes me back to the story of Haman and Mordecai and Queen Esther. And the whole idea in that story is the king asks Haman, hey, what would you do for somebody you're trying to honor? And Haman thinks to himself, oh, it's got to be about me. And he plans something for himself. And then the king says, yeah, go do all of that for Mordecai.
How embarrassing.
And not only that, it was Haman's sworn enemy.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, you're looking at this whole thing and saying he had to walk around a city saying this is what happens for the man the king is pleased with, knowing, and in front of people who know he didn't like him. Like, what a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it's that humility lesson
Yeah.
that we studied last night.
Yep. Exactly, right?
Oops.
When you add that to verse 18, right? We hear about this all the time. This is not a practice. We don't have oxen treading, right? Stuff. But people would be surprised to know that back in the olden days, like up until like 100 years ago, when oxen, cows, horses, anything was treading, right? They would not muzzle them. They could eat as much as they wanted. It kept them going, really. The idea, though, also was that they would eat what's in front of them, and then they had to stretch out. They walked faster. They worked harder, right, in front of this whole thing. So I think, again, we're always looking at people and saying, you deserve this or you deserve this, right? We give raises based on what we think somebody deserves. right? And the Bible, Paul makes it very clear, like, hey, it's not about what you deserve, because none of it's about what you deserve. It's about your work, and you're worthy of your work, right? You're worthy of being paid for your work.
Yeah. Well, it's the double reward.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, that's why I think I've always worked in like commissioned
Mm-hmm.
environments, because I'm like, you get what you work for.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I don't want to get paid the same as like the kid in the corner who's like, you know, I want the multipliers.
Yeah.
I want to blow it out. I want to be president's cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to do. And
Yep.
then you're going to pay me.
Right.
So
Right.
it is fair. You should be paid based on what you do. We should not all get the same. God doesn't reward us all the same.
No, I think Christians forget that, right? They again, because as Christians we think the ultimate reward is heaven, and as Christians, the ultimate minimum reward is heaven.
Right. People just want to get in the door. They don't care.
Yep. And again, listen, if you're talking about eternity in heaven or eternity in hell, you just want to get in.
That's a no-brainer.
Right? That is true. But the truth of the matter is, what we really want to do is get in and get to president's level.
Cabinet, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, rule and reign over all the things.
That's exactly right. Right? Again, am I going to be happy being a custodian and, in God's economy? Yes.
Wait, there's nothing dirty in heaven to clean.
There's not.
Then there's nothing to fix.
But
so there are no custodians.
There's animals in heaven, and we can ask Mel about this.
But they're not
right?
going to poop.
There's animals in heaven, right? Because there's horses coming back. So somebody's doing the stable work in heaven.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Yes, Mel, somebody's doing the stable work in heaven, are they not?
I have not given that a thought.
Mel, you think about it. Sit in that chair, think about it, and then you give me an answer in a few minutes, right? If there are horses in heaven,
No.
do they not go to the bathroom?
No.
What?
That's
They
waste.
just quit being what they're supposed to be?
Yes, there's no waste in heaven.
So so Adam and Eve didn't go to the bathroom. Is
I
what
don't
you're
think
trying to
so.
tell me. Wow. See, now
Well, okay, what would they eat that the body would not use?
this
Because how is waste
maybe
made?
the body just couldn't use it all at one time, because I eat a lot. I'm a glutton. So
Not a glutton in
what
heaven.
if I ate 6 oranges and my body's like, 4 does it?
You're
4.
not. Well, it'll just save it for later.
It just saves it for later.
Yeah, because it'll be your perfect.
I'm pretty sure this is a
glorified-
great Mel in the middle topic. Right?
If you guys didn't know, Mel walked in.
Are there custodians in heaven? Right?
No, there's nothing to clean.
I don't listen. They still have to be fed in heaven. What do you think? They just eat by themselves, horses up there? No, they have to be fed. They have to be taken care of. They have to be treated well. We're supposed to be doing that. So I think dogs have to be walked in heaven, right? Cats have to be scratched and pet in heaven. Like, there's people going to do these kind of things. Don't burst my bubble.
You're gonna love it. It's not gonna be like a job.
Right.
Everybody's gonna do it.
Right.
You don't have to walk them. They're just gonna roam free. You're not gonna have to worry about them getting loose and running away and getting hit by a car.
I hope my job on the new earth is riding my horse all day, just checking out God's cattle on 1,000 hills. That's what I want. That is what I want to be my job. The rest of you can rule
careful what you
kingdoms and
wish
cities. You all just run the world. I just want me and a horse and 1,000
You know what?
hills of cattle to just look at and take
I'm
care
okay
of.
if there's no cattle. You know why?
Why?
Because I'm depressed that you don't eat meat in heaven.
Well, see, there's another. But will you eat meat on the new earth?
No,
Why?
because you don't kill animals.
This is a good another
I've
topic
studied
for now.
heaven, okay? You do not kill animals in heaven. There is no more meat. You eat from the tree of life. And some of us, I don't even know if we have to eat anything, but that'll really mess me up.
For years, I've said that
If I don't have to eat anymore.
my tree of life has ho-hos on it. So that's what we're going with, right?
Mine is Oreos.
The whole point of this little sidetrack, because Mel will answer my question before the end of the show, right? But the whole point of this was, listen, there are people who they think the goal is just to get into heaven.
Right.
And the goal
Get in
isn't
the
to
door.
just get into heaven, right? There are rewards. And so
Right,
when we look
because
at
we're saying
Timothy,
God does not pay us all the same.
That's right. When we look at Timothy and God's saying, give double honor, do these kind of things, right? It's because, again, people are doing harder things, right? It is hard to open up the Word of God and to teach it.
Yes.
It is hard,
Yes.
right, to look at doctrine, something that Mel is good at, right, that I am not good at. It's hard to do these things. And so the Bible tells us through Paul, hey, listen, people are desiring to do this, and the responsibility that goes with that. Because again, Paul is also the one who says, hey, you shouldn't all desire to be teachers, right? Because there's stuff going on with that you're going to be accountable for. So we need to be careful in those areas, right? Again, I love, I don't even know what time it is, but I love the verse 19, right, where it says, against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses, right?
This I could go on and on and on.
All right, you go on and on and on about it. Go.
Do we have time?
We have time for you to go on and on and on.
Oh my gosh.
Mel said yes. He's looking. He's watching.
There's just some, I don't even know. Like, it's just the whole gossip thing and the whole the word accusation bugs me to begin with. But like, This is why the whole, what did we do, James? Wherever we were.
James.
Earlier in Timothy, I don't know what we were studying or reading. The whole, like, the church being set up properly. What were we talking about when we were talking about, like, everyone being spirit-filled? Because I was like, well, duh, because we do church wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, we just have a bunch of people come in and it's like, okay, whatever. Are you saved? Are you saved? Are you saved? Well, like, and here it was like, well, yeah, because that happened first, right? And then we're all together, and then all of these elders and all of these leaders and teachers and whatever were obviously spirit-filled.
Right.
So it's like, this 2 or 3, like, in our church, 2 or 3 is not safe.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, because who are they? Who are they even? You know, are they saved? Are they spirit-filled believers? Are they people doing life with the elders they're accusing? Or are they just some church people who sit in some pews once a week
Right.
that you don't even know their address, and they come in and now they decided that they don't like you because whatever.
They have a vested interest in.
Yeah, you whatever. I'm a girl or whatever. Like, and we just don't like you. So 2 or 3 of them are like, you know what? Let's get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things. Like, it's just.
Well,
I get the whole, like, don't just take one person's word, obviously, like, because that's.
Yeah. I think it's hard because I think so much of Christianity is perception, right?
Yeah.
We look at a situation, and again, we've ran into. So if we're going to make this practical for you and I, right? One of the things I love to do when people pray is I love to hold hands with people praying, right? There's something about just grabbing somebody's hand, praying with them. You're connected, right? And you know what it also does? It makes people pay attention, right? So I've prayed with people, and you open your eyes, and like you find like they're not even anywhere around you.
I've seen
right?
people playing on their phone.
Exactly, but when I'm holding your hand and the 2 of us are praying, right? Now again, in our culture, in our world, in our Christianity, right? Not overseas, but here in the United States, you know, we've got all these rules, all these things for protecting people's hearts and minds and all these things. So it's not appropriate for a man and a woman to hold hands if they're in a building alone and all these kind of things, right? And we can argue and we can go about that, right? But if you and I were in this, and we pray before we do this show, we pray before we do other shows, but if you and I are here and we're holding hands and somebody walks in and they don't pay attention to the moment, they see you and I holding hands, and then you and I lose our jobs and our positions and we lose all this stuff, right? Because we were holding hands. But if they walk in the door and they listen
For 2 seconds.
and they hear us praying, right? They should be able to say to themselves, well, it's a little hard to have an inappropriate romantic moment while you're praying to God, right? Like, that's a hard thing. They don't have to like it. They don't have to agree with it. They can go, well, that's the seed for other stuff. They can say whatever they want, which might be true. But in that moment, are we doing something inappropriate? Nope. And the answer to that, on my part, would be only God knows yours and my intentions, the heart, and all that stuff, right? Somebody else is just walking in on perception, right?
Right.
If I've seen the same thing. I've walked into a room where people were counting money for the offering, right as somebody was putting a $20 bill in their pocket, only to find out that what they had done was made change. Right? But they were putting money in their pocket, right? So you're looking at that and you're saying, I walked in at a moment, I could have charged them with anything, right? So we have to be
God
really,
help them if they have a past.
right. We have to be really, really careful, right? And that is true, right? Because we are desperate to protect people from their pasts, so we rob them of a future.
Yep.
Right? So we say, I'm so worried about you being who you were in the past that I won't let you do these things in the future.
Yeah.
Or in the present, right? Those are hard moments because do we have a right to hold people accountable? Absolutely. But if we're in right relationship, I would hope somebody walked through the door and they would look at the two of us and they would say, hey, I saw you guys doing that. What's up with that?
Well, if we were in right relationship, they would just know.
Well, and if we were in really right relationship, they would walk in the door and they would come and they would join us.
Which has happened.
Well, exactly, right? People have come in and they prayed with us, right?
Yeah.
I think, again, we got to be really careful with this whole accusation thing.
Yeah.
We have to be really careful when we read, we perceive, we look at things and we say, oh, this must be what's going on.
Right. I am super not a fan of that.
It does so much damage, right? But it also, you know what it does? Is it also drives people to just continually hide sin and hide things. So
And then hide good things.
exactly.
That shouldn't be hidden.
Yeah, I said, is there something wrong? Like,
Because then it does look guilty.
But if you're in Walmart and you run into one of your people and they just are broken down because something happened and they need prayer, is it wrong in that public setting to grab their hands and just pray?
No way.
Right? Is it a wrong thing? Knowing that whoever could walk in, right?
Don't care.
People could think all kinds of things, right? And in today's
don't
world,
care.
by the way, it's no more right for two women to hold hands praying or two men to hold hands praying.
Yeah.
Right? So all that stuff, it really, really.
See, I've always been I've done things like that my whole entire Christian life, and things that could have gotten me fired from my job, like praying for customers and things, and I'll hold your hand, I'll hold Mel's hand. I don't care. I'll hold 5 guys' hands all at the same time. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care because I know what's right and what's wrong. I know what my heart is. I know what I'm doing with the people that I'm doing it with. And then I know 5,000,000% on top of that, because of that, God will protect me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. If somebody wants to say something, I'm not even going to worry about it because I know God's going to squash it in some way, shape, or form. I just don't worry about it.
Well, and Paul says right here, you don't get to accuse somebody if it's just you walking in,
Yeah.
right? You need to have
Prove it.
2 or 3 witnesses, right? You need to have the 2 or 3 witnesses because, again, if you walk in this door and you don't like me or that you don't like you, well, you can say whatever you want anyway,
Right.
right? It doesn't even have to be true. Like, they don't even have to, we could be doing this right now. Mel just walked in on us. I mean, we're just sitting here talking in front of a camera. He has no idea if the camera's even on. I don't think he checked it, right? But Mel doesn't know what's going on. He has to make a choice when he comes in and decide, hey, these guys are about this or they're not about this, right? So, hey, we didn't get very far.
I love it.
And we need Mel's answer on whether there are horse custodians in heaven.
No.
There are not.
I knew it. Yay! I win.
See, now I want to ask Mel a bunch of questions, but
Mel,
I can't.
this does not mean I'm going to go easy on you and Mel in the middle.
Oh.
I love you, but
Do you want to change your answer, Mel?
No.
Good deal. Hey, we only got 3 verses out of what we read.
I know, that's great. So we got I told you there's a ton in here. I don't even know why we read that much.
There is a ton in here.
Guys, it's going to be Christmas before we get to 2 Timothy or Jude or wherever.
We're going to Joel.
Joel.
Yeah, Joel. We might have to have Mel in on that because it's way out of my pay grade. So, all right, you going to wrap this up?
I guess so.
Friday night.
What did we talk about? A whole bunch of stuff.
We did. We went all over the place. Somehow we got to holding
Let's
hands
see,
and praying.
guys. Honor people.
Yep.
Work hard because you get paid what you're worth. But no, just read this and study it yourself. That's how I feel,
There you go.
honestly, because we have our own background, our own lives. Like, we've both done all these things, and we talk in a certain way that you may not even understand. You might not know any of that sales stuff and get any of it. So just do what we always do. And what we tell you to do is spend your Friday night with Jesus like we want you to. So go and take this and pray and just read it yourself and
Amen.
see how he speaks to you, because your life is totally different than ours. So just go be with Jesus.
Amen.
We love you, and thanks for hanging out with us. It's Friday night. It was super fun, and next week I promise we'll get a little further through. Maybe we'll finish it. I don't know. Maybe.
I know we might get stuck back on horses and custodians because I still got
I
more
don't know.
questions.
But okay, you tell Andy. There's no cleaning in heaven. There's nothing to clean. There's no decay. There's no nothing. There's
Wow,
no
that's all
waste. There's no
true.
dust. There's no rot.
Wow.
No custodians. They're all out of a job. They'll have to do something else.
All this time, I thought so.
We love you guys. Have a great Friday night with Jesus and whoever you're with. We will see you next Friday.